Hi everyone, I'm Bill Holcomb and welcome to another watercolor tutorial with Let's Paint Watercolors. Today we are painting the famous Stonehenge. I have visited there a few times and it is really dramatic and lovely place to go to. Here are the color mixes used, and this time round I'm using Arches 300-pound rough paper. As usual, you can download my free sketch and see a list of the materials in the description below. So let's paint watercolors. I start with my number 12 brush with clear water over the whole of the sky area, coming down to Stonehenge rocks. And this is a good tip for beginners, because if you do that first with clear water, it will enable you much more easily to paint right up to the edges of subjects, such as all these giant granite rocks. Using that number 12 because it has a nice point to it. So although it's a round brush, it's got a nice point that enables me to paint the colors in between where light is shining through between various rocks. They're really big slabs of granite that traveled many miles away from where they were quarried. Amazing how they got them there. Like they say 5,000 years ago. And I have visited there a few times and it's magical. And if you get the opportunity to be there in England, go there and visit. You won't be disappointed. So we've done Windsor Yellow then, and some alizarin crimson, and then we're going into the Windsor Blue. Still using my number 12. And then at the top, I've got a deeper version of the Windsor Blue and letting that come down. And do remember as well that my board is at an angle. It is not flat surface for the paper. The board at the top has a block that gives me something like a 30-degree angle, sloping from top to bottom. So when I do these washes, the pigment slowly slopes down, works its way down. And that means that it's not pooling, it's not allowing the paint to dry here and there and stay wet in other places and then start granulating or start creep back and so forth. So I highly recommend that you do that. And you'll see me occasionally um, actually mopping up the edges so that I don't have wet areas seeping into dry areas. And then we got flat brushes that are very good for doing skies. You will see me using them in water as well, whether it's lakes, ponds, or the ocean. And I've used a half size and a quarter size. And as I mentioned before, these brush sizes do vary tremendously from one make to another. So that's a general guide, but at least you can see in the video tutorial what actual size they are. Now, I'm using a number 6 for the stones and I'm using a scraping technique. You can use a mixture of your Windsor Blue and Payne's Grey. You see it's a greyish sort of colour. Um, Quite strong on the Payne's Grey side of the mixture. And this is really an underpainting situation. Using that scraping technique because I want light and dark occurring in those stone slabs. And you notice that this one now at the very top, there's a little area where they lock in the top cap rocks into the upright rocks. Um, and that slots in and keeps them in position. And just continue with that, working your way if you're right-handed from left to right so you don't smudge, or the other way if you're left-handed. And always have some tissue to hand. That's the other tip I would give you. Tissue to hand, either for mopping up, or if you've laid down too much pigment, too much water, you can quickly mop up. or if you need to take some off your brush because it's overloaded, you can do it, or just testing how intense it is, etc. And also, another tip, do have a spare piece of paper to the side, and then you can test your mixes of colors, the intensity, the level of pigment to water, etc., etc., before you commit to your masterpiece. And just continue with that. So here and there, it's dried, and as it's dried, I'm then laying down the next wash. And once again, using that scraping technique, it enables me to give texture to subject matter like this, and it makes it much more interesting. There's a variation of light and dark that is occurring, much more interesting and closer to reality, closer to the real life situation with Stonehenge here, where the stones have weathered, of course, over the 5,000 years, and they have various weathering patterns on them. They're pitted here and there. They're light in some places, darker in others. So that scraping technique is very useful for this subject matter. And you'll know from my various tutorials that I use it quite often. It is also helpful when I'm doing a landscape situation and there are distant mountains involved and so forth. Or if I'm doing a shimmering water on a lake or the ocean, and I can scrape along, leaving either the white paper beneath or a lighter pigment beneath to show the shimmering light on water. Very useful for lots of things like that. Also useful for when painting foliage on trees to show the variety that you want to achieve. It's so boring if we produce a painting that is very bland and the paints are very matted and don't have variation and life to them. So it's important to bear that in mind. That's another tip I would give you. Give as much variation as possible, whether it's transitions from light to dark or whether it's texture in something. It's much more pleasing to the eye and will hold the interest of the viewer. And they will marvel and wonder, how did they achieve that? That's amazing. Because it looks so real, you know? It is an impressionistic situation. We're not trying to produce a photographic situation with fine detail, but we're doing enough to convince, and enough to tell a story and get the viewer's interest. So bear those points in mind when you're actually tackling various subjects and employ these various techniques to your own masterpieces. That's the whole idea of my tutorials. It's useful to copy other work like we've all done over the years and like you can do with this subject and other subjects in my tutorials. But the important thing is that you are learning the techniques. And these tutorials I find would have been fantastically useful to me when I was starting out painting 50 years ago and then very seriously selling 40 years ago. But there you go. You've got them available today with the wonder of the internet and YouTube. And so now for the grass area, use that 12 brush to put in a load of water, just clear water at first. Then go into your Windsor yellow. Come right across and be bold, work quickly. We're doing wetted wet. We want it to stay wet. I know that can vary according to the conditions where you're painting, whether it's outdoors or whether it's in your studio, and the level of humidity, the heat, etc., whether the air conditioners blow in, it will affect drying times. But basically, work as quickly as you can. Don't let things dry on you. And that is another wonderful thing about the Windsor and Newton paints, artists' professional quality, and the Archer's 300-pound rough paper, because it's all cotton and it's acid free and it's sized. So the absorption of pigment in the paper is at a controlled pace. Very important. If you start with obscure papers, I won't name particular ones, it wouldn't be fair, but something very obscure, and then you're frustrated, you're thinking, "Why can't I do this? I can't paint," you know? You can. It's, a lot of it is the materials that you're using, so treat yourself, get some good quality materials like Winsor& and Newton paints, professional quality, and the Arches £300 rough paper, and you'll make so much more rapid progress. You'll be so much more pleased, and it will encourage you, and you'll want to keep painting, painting all the time. And if you can, I know it's not always possible, but I try and paint every single day, even if it's just a little painting like this one. Well, here we are, the finished dramatic Stonehenge. I hope you've enjoyed that tutorial and that you tackle it, and let us know how you get on. Make comments, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this tutorial, give my other beginner videos a try by clicking this thumbnail.